We've got a good group today, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Of course, we are recording this webinar, so we'll make sure that it is sent out to you along with the slides once the webinar is complete. But thank you all so much for joining me today for our training series webinar, Whip Your WIP into Shape. So the goal today is to walk through how to maximize the value that you're getting out of your work in progress report, along with some of the other company level financial reports that you can find within RedTeam Flex. So with that, we'll go ahead and walk into things. My name is Sarah Nyheisel. I've been with RedTeam for about 4 years now. Some of you may know me as an implementation specialist. I may have helped onboard or consult with you at some point. I'm actually recently transitioning into a new role as our senior enablement manager, which means that I'm going to be even more heavily focused on making sure that we have available training and learning content for both our clients and our internal teams. So hopefully you'll see me on even more of these webinars, on more training videos, and you'll be able to kind of take advantage of some of the new training and learning resources that'll be coming your way. But I'll be presenting today on RedTeam Flex. So I like to make that really clear at the start of my webinars because I know we sell several different products. If you are a RedTeam Go client, this webinar is not actually for you. We're going over some company level financial reporting in RedTeam Flex today, which is kind of our flagship platform, our highly configurable construction management software. It's designed for our mid to enterprise level contractors, and it's really a wholesale start to finish project management software. So hopefully you're familiar with it already. But if you find yourself thinking, hey, I'm in the wrong room, we just want to make sure you know which product we're going over today. So the agenda, we're going to talk basic orientation of the WIP, the work in progress report. We're going to show you where to find it within your RedTeam Flex database, and some of the basic parts and pieces, what information you're going to see. We're going to talk revenue recognition and accounting periods and how those can help you get the most out of your WIP and your other company level reports. We'll look at those other available company level reports, particularly the project's financial overview. And then we'll finish up with some Q&A time. So please feel free as we go along to place any questions you have in the chat or the Q&A, and I will go ahead and address those right at the end. But you can certainly place them in there along the way to make sure you're not losing your train of thought there. Now, I will also say I'm going to bounce back and forth a bit today between the slides and the actual software itself, just so that I can demonstrate and show you where things are. So that's why you're seeing my tabs open here. But we'll kind of bounce back and forth as needed. So the next thing that we're going to take a look at, or the first thing that we're going to take a look at here, is our basic orientation of the WIP. What is the work in progress report? It is a built-in real-time company health report. The idea of the work in progress in RedTeam Flex is to bring together key financial information for all of your active projects. It's going to help you estimate latest revenues and gross profit, and it's going to help you determine things like overbilled and underbilled status, so you can compare your true earnings or your revenue to your customer billings thus far. It's also giving you insight into things like cash flow and working capital, and ultimately helping you determine profitability of your projects. Now, who is it useful for? Really, it can be useful for anyone from your project managers to your project coordinators, all the way up to your executive leadership, including your finance team, right? And really, we see it as a tool for executive leadership primarily, because you can view those company level reports, understand your company health in real time. Whereas we think of it more for project coordinators or project managers as being able to see an overview of their own active projects. They can dive deeper from there into individual projects and access other company level reports from that same page. So let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to jump in. Now, this is our training database, so you may see some things in here that are a little bit silly or some numbers that are unrealistic, but it really has a lot of active projects in this training database, which is why I wanted to use it today, to make sure that you can really see how the WIP will look when it's fleshed out and has a heavy project volume. So first, we want to make sure you understand where to find your work in progress. I hope you already know where it is and you use it on a regular basis. If you don't, you're going to find it in the projects menu right here. And you can go ahead and click on the WIP, right? You're used to seeing that projects overview page. You've also got a bids tab, which is going to show you all of your projects that are not yet in the in progress stage. So anything from draft through to proposal. But the WIP report here is where we're going to focus today. This has a list of all active projects that are in progress, and it's going to allow us to see some key information here right up front. So the first thing to know is that you can click on the name or number of any project to jump right into that project from here. So like we said, you're seeing an aggregate company level view, but you can dive into a single project as needed. That's why these are blue. It is going to organize your projects by project number, not by project name. So you're going to see those all lined up numerically. And you're going to have the ability to dive into the financial overview report. If you were with us for my previous webinar, probably all the way back in September, October, we had an overview of that financial overview report. That was the project level financial reporting. So it's right here. It's accessible. You can open it for any individual project. You can also get there from the home icon within the project. And then here under the tools icon, you've got the ability to pull a few more project level reports. You've got your actual costs, your performance overview. Remember, that's kind of that large configurable report where you can send things like a week's worth or a month's worth of daily progress reports, RFI and submittal summaries, all sorts of things, kind of aggregating a large customer facing report there, and a printable copy of the project scope of work. So lots of things you can dive into here per project. We'll talk about revenue recognition in a bit. We've got two styles of revenue recognition that we'll go into in detail. But for this main WIP page, what we're seeing here is the total modified contract value. This is the current contract value with all authorized change orders included. So if you've got any prime contract change orders that have been authorized, that contract value is included here. Your revenue, we're going to talk about how your revenue can be calculated here in a bit, but know that these numbers are blue because you can click to view the formula that was used to calculate them, which we'll do as we talk about revenue recognition. Your billing here, this is a sum total of your committed customer bills to date, and that comes from the billing tab of your project. So as you're creating those progress bills, you're going to see this number increase. Underneath each of those, you've got a percentage. Under revenue and billing, you have essentially a percentage of completion based on the contract value. So what percentage of the contract have I completed per my revenue number? What percentage have I completed per billing? Underbilled and overbilled here, these will be useful if you're using our percentage of completion revenue recognition style. So we'll talk about that in a bit, but the goal is for you to be able to see, based on what I have completed to date in the project, have I underbilled or overbilled my customer? What have I billed out as compared to what I've been actually completing? My backlog here is essentially what's left to complete. And that is contract minus revenue. So again, that number is going to depend on your revenue recognition. But what it's showing you is both the dollar value and the percentage left to complete on the current contract. And then, of course, your status over here of in progress. Now, from there, we will kind of come back to our slides here and talk a little bit about revenue recognition, because that's one of the key pieces of the WIP report. And it's going to allow us to best understand how to make use of this report and what makes the most sense for your company. So we have two types of revenue recognition. You've got revenue as a percentage of completion. This is by far the more popular option, and this is where we are calculating your revenue based on those actual costs to date. What is showing up in your budget as actual costs? That doesn't rely on what you've billed, right? So that's where we're getting the overbilled, underbilled status, is if we're using percentage of completion, we can say, based on my actual cost to date, my revenue is X. My billing total is Y, and I can then subtract to get an overbilled, underbilled status. It also relies on good at-risk and contingency management. So I know I preached that in the first of this webinar series. We talked about how good at-risk and contingency management matters in terms of that financial overview report, in terms of getting a good indication of your projected profit at the end of the project. We're going to see here, if I use percentage of completion revenue recognition, that at-risk and contingency numbers still or also factors into my revenue number. So we'll show you that formula in a moment. The other option, the probably less popular version, would be revenue equals billing. Now, I have seen this be really effective for some of my clients. Just depends on your needs. Revenue equals billing is based only on those committed customer bills to date. So it is not taking a look at what's in your budget in terms of actual costs. It is simply looking at those committed progress bills in the billing tab and totaling those up. Revenue will always equal billing, which means there's no overbilled or underbilled status. It shows as 0 in both of those columns. And you're going to keep things simple. You're going to always assume that your revenue is equal to what you have billed thus far. It doesn't include any at-risk or contingency calculations. So if that's something that you don't like managing or you're having trouble managing, that's a way to kind of take that out of the equation. So let's go back and take a look at revenue recognition here. And what we can see is that, like I said, over here, we can change, as we hit the tools icon, we can change revenue recognition on any project at any time. Now, in your configuration menu, under the My Company settings, you can choose the default for your project. You can choose for yourself whether you'd like all new projects to start as percentage of completion or as revenue equals billing. Regardless of your decision there, you're going to be able to change it project by project whenever you'd like. This can be done within the project preferences inside your project, or you can come here to the WIP and switch it here and save that option. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at this Miami Seaquarium down here. We've got a lot of contract value and revenue there. We're going to go ahead and shift it just so that you can see how it changes. Now, notice in gray underneath the title, it's telling me that this project is currently set to percentage of completion. All I'm changing when I change that setting is how the revenue number reads out on my financial reports. I'm not going to hurt anything within the project if I choose to flip this back and forth. So if we go to revenue recognition, I want you to keep an eye on the revenue number as compared to the billing number. Right now, they're different. If I say revenue equals billing and I save, it's going to update and they're suddenly going to match, right? So now I have a 0 underbilled, 0 overbilled. And my numbers are both identical, 4.6%. If I go ahead and click on the revenue number, I get a little pop-up here that's going to show me how that was calculated. So it's just showing me the formula. Revenue equals a sum of customer bills. Now that means committed customer bills. It's not going to include your draft bills, but it is a very simple calculation. If we go ahead and come over here and flip it back, we will see those numbers shift again, and I want to show you the formula for revenue as a percentage of completion. So notice again that revenue number is going to flip to 4.2%. We are overbilled. We've billed 4.6% of the contract value. So if we click here, we're going to see that much more complex formula that's based on actual cost to date. That is allowing us to determine what our revenue is based on what we have completed thus far, based on those costs in our budget. And that's allowing us to then compare to what we've billed and see if we should, be billing more. Now, I want you to notice here that these total expected costs at complete factor in here. And down here, we break them down. That is the actuals column from your budget, the open column of your budget, the at-risk, and the contingency columns of your budget. Now, not everybody uses that contractor's contingency column of the budget. If you don't, you can discount that number. In that case, you're really only looking at managing your at-risk. But keep in mind that both at-risk and contractor's contingency columns of your budget are manual. You have to update those and develop a process that works for you and your team to keep those up to date at any given time. Now, if you go back and look at that webinar on at-risk, I believe our webinar is called What is At-Risk and Why Does It Matter? That should be on our webinars page. I would definitely advise you to go back and take a look at that if you weren't able to join us. But that's really going to explain to you good at-risk management, how to determine that for your company, and what it should look like. Because if I am not effectively managing at-risk, What's most likely going to happen is I'm going to inflate this number artificially. Not only am I going to look over budget, and I'm going to look like I have a loss on the project at the end when I look at my financial overview report, but this denominator is going to get too large. So your revenue number is going to get too small. You're just going to see a lot of ill effects if you're not managing these effectively. So it's one of my pet peeves or my pet projects is to make sure everyone understands how important at-risk management is. You can come down here, of course, and see how all the numbers for your project factor in. So you can see on this project, I'm not even using contractor's contingency. Great, I don't need to worry about it. But I am using at risk, and I want to make sure that that number is accurate. Now, if we close that back out, like we said, you're seeing that overbuild, underbuild, and that backlog, it's important to note, is also dependent on revenue recognition because that is contract value over here minus revenue. So if revenue is a percentage of completion, you are seeing what is left to complete based on actual cost to date, not what is left to complete based on what I've billed to date. Again, the answer is up to you, and you can change that project by project. The other thing to know is that once a project is 100% completed or 100% build out, it's going to go ahead and shift to revenue equals billing. Even if you haven't necessarily marked the project closed, it's going to go ahead and shift to revenue equals billing once it's 100% completed. So that's not an error there if you see it, not a bug. It's just one of those things where there's not much value in the comparison once you've completed the project. And move on here to talk a little bit about accounting periods and why those can be useful. You have the opportunity in your configuration menu or in your transactions menu to set up accounting periods within RedTeam Flex. It's by no means mandatory. You'd have to first turn it on in the configuration menu under the My Companies settings. You would simply flip that switch that says, yes, I want accounting periods. And then there's a section in the configuration menu that says accounting periods in the top right. You can click on it and set those up. Now you can set those up custom for your company. They could be monthly, quarterly, whatever the case may be. And the most important thing to know is they do not interact with your ERP. So if you have an integration with Sage, with QBO, with Acumatica, they are not interacting. Those accounting periods do not connect. So theoretically, if you wanted to, you could have two different sets of accounting periods. You could have monthly in Sage and you could have quarterly in RedTeam. It wouldn't hurt a thing. That's not normally what I see, right? They normally match, but that's just a good example, right? It won't hurt anything because they're not talking to each other. What you're essentially doing with your accounting periods in Flex by turning those on is you're giving yourself the opportunity to filter and memorialize your WIP and your other company level reports by accounting period. So we'll show you what I mean by that. If we come in here and we hit the filter, we can go ahead. Now note, you can group these by manager or customer. That's something I didn't go over in the basic orientation, but it is up here. We can go ahead and say, I'd like to see projects by manager. And I can see each individual manager's projects. That's really helpful sometimes. We can also do the same by customer and see our customer headings, see all the projects with ABC School District, right? We work with them a lot. We can see everything that's going on. But when it comes to actually filtering, we have the option of through date at any given time. But you only have the option of through accounting period if you've turned on and created accounting periods. And that would allow you to select an accounting period here. You're going to see your current accounting period and older accounting periods. If you go to an older accounting period, you're actually going to find that you're able to close it out. If I filter, I'll end up getting a close button. So I can mark those accounting periods closed as I'd like. But I can go ahead and view my WIP at any point in time. Now you can see our closed ones down here. I can go back and view those and export those anytime that I'd like. So the real value of accounting periods in RedTeam Flex is about memorializing the WIP here. And it's about being able to filter it and then pull some of these additional reports that we're going to show you based on those accounting periods. So like I said, by no means mandatory, but we certainly recommend turning those on. Our next stop here is going to be to talk about some additional company level reports. The primary report I want to talk about is the project's financial overview here. That is what I like to call the biggest data dump that you can get in terms of financial information from RedTeam Flex. It is an Excel spreadsheet that you can download that's going to be showing you an enormous amount of financial information for each of those projects in the WIP. So we'll take a look at an example of that here momentarily. We're also going to look at some other reports that can be pulled and filtered and printed from Flex, which would be our project accounting report, revenue and gross profit, and estimates at complete. Those are all housed within the WIP tab. And then to finish up today, I'm also going to show you where to find your payables and receivables aging reports at a company level. So let's hop back over here. The first thing to know, we'll go ahead and close up our filters there, and we'll filter by general, just so that it looks a little more standard for you. If we come here to view, on any page, we've told you the view icon is your reporting options. So we can come here, and we're not only going to see a printable and exportable version of what we're seeing right here, our work in progress, but we're going to see some additional company level reports. So let's take a look at that work in progress first. I've already got it pulled up here. This is just showing you a printable copy of what we were looking at on the main page, and we can export that to Excel. Also worth noting, you can go ahead and click right here to just directly export this to Excel. It will hold whatever filters you are using. So if you want to filter by customer or by project manager, if you want to filter by accounting period, you can then export that directly to Excel in that format. The project's financial overview here is probably the next most important item. So if we pull that up, you're going to see it's not actually opening a PDF copy of a report. It is allowing me to determine which projects I want included, and then it's going to go ahead and email it to me. It should already have your email address in here. You can go ahead and double check it. But you can choose, by default, it's got the current WIP, all projects in the current WIP. You can also choose different subsets of projects by status. So if you want to see all the projects in your entire database, you could theoretically do that, right? And it's such a large report that we're actually going to email it to you. So when you hit confirm, you're going to get an email. I'll actually show you what that's going to look like. Let me drag over here. So this is my inbox. I sent myself one today. You're just going to get a download report, and you'll click right here to pull that up. So you can run that report as often as you want. I'm going to go ahead and pull up an example here. Let's not convert. And we're going to take a look at what that report includes. So it's not the world's prettiest report, right? It's not something that's designed for you to immediately start sharing with external parties. It's really about the ability for data analysis. You have the ability in here to see each project. So let me maximize this for you. And we can see each project from the WIP, or each project on the list that we selected. You're going to see the company division of your company, the customer name and facility, if you're using customer facilities. You've got the project name and number, right? And you can expand some of these so you can see all the information. Its real value is in the ability to create charts and pivot tables, right? And handle data analysis. But you can see for each project is a row, and you're going to get columns that constitute essentially all of the information you would see in that financial overview report within the project itself. So you're getting a project level view in each row, and then you can aggregate that data into charts and tables and data analysis. So it's allowing you to see your contract date and values, actual and open values, at-risk, contingency, right? Direct and indirect costs, profit and revenue, billing as a dollar value and a percentage. You've got all that stuff here from the WIP, received and paid to date. You've got your accounts payable and receivable out here. So there's just an enormous amount of information across all of your projects. So I really find that one to be valuable. And I like folks to know that it's there. It does have to be pulled on demand. So you'd come here and just go ahead and tell it to email a copy to you whenever you'd like. Other reports that we have in here that are not Excel based but can be printed would be our project accounting, revenue and gross profit, and estimates at complete. So if we take a quick look at those, your project accounting here, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little because I know these are really small. Your project accounting here is really about showing your current contract value, again, with all authorized changes included, and it's showing prior and current accounting period direct costs. It's showing your total to date. Same with billing, prior and current accounting periods, total, and then accounts payable and receivable totals for each project. And again, if you filter on the main WIP, it will filter this report as well. So I would filter and then run this report. You can also print that out as a PDF if you'd like. Revenue and gross profit here is going to be showing estimated gross profit, percent complete to date. That revenue, again, remember, depends on your revenue recognition, and it's going to be taking a look at your total direct costs and your total current gross profit. And then again, that billing over and under, we've got the total, but the over and under is only really going to be showing if we have revenue as a percentage of completion. So let's go ahead and take a look at our next one here. This one is our estimates at complete. And this one is really breaking up your direct costs into those 5 cost types: labor, subcontract, material, equipment, and other. It's totaling that up, and it's also going to show you your indirect costs over here. So you've got estimated gross profit and then estimated profit here. You're also going to see your project manager's name. So that can be a nice way to kind of keep tabs on whose projects are in what kind of status. You can print that report as well. And then we saw that work in progress already, right? So this is just a printable, exportable copy of the main page there. So again, the ones that can export to Excel would be work in progress and financial overview. These 3 are printable, but not exportable. And then the last reports that we want to see today before we kind of open up the Q&A is going to be our payables and receivables aging. So I like to point those out because if we come up here to companies, we can see these on a company or on a project level, right? We can go into a project, and on the invoices page of a project, we can see our payables aging. On the billing tab of a project, we can see our receivables aging. But if we want to see that from a company level, we're going to come to our vendors menu, and we're going to go to the invoices tab. That's going to allow us to see company level reports. And you'll see a few of them here. Payables aging is really the one we're most interested in, but if we hit view, there's your payables aging. Also note pending approvals. So you have the ability from here to see what invoices are in what status and whose inbox they're sitting in. And you've got an accounting export there at a company level if you need it, if you're going to be exporting this information into an accounting software because you don't have an integration. So there's our payables aging there. And if we come in here, it's essentially going to be showing us the outstanding balance on for various vendors. It's going to be showing us the basic information there, and then what is outstanding. The balance outstanding, how long certain balances have been outstanding, and once everything is paid out, including retainage, and that invoice is closed, you'll go ahead and see it remove from the report. You do have filters up top here, and you have the ability to print that as needed. We can come back here and do the same for customers as well. So we can go to our customers menu and hit invoices. And then we're going to be able to see our receivables aging. From our view icon, again, that's our reports on any given page. There we go. Receivables aging. We can go ahead and open that up. And again, you're going to find you have the ability to sort and filter and print that out as needed. So it's just going to be able to show you per customer what you've got outstanding, what's been received, how long it's been outstanding based on those projects. Well, with that, I believe that's all we had to cover today. Let's go ahead and kind of bring it back around to our key takeaways, right? What we really want to leave you with today is that the WIP report is a really, really valuable tool. Probably the most valuable thing about it is that most of our clients, before they're with us, they are generating that WIP manually. It's something that someone on your team has to be kind of pulling the numbers and putting together on a regular basis. RedTeam Flex is doing that for you in real time. And if you know where it is and how to manage it, you can be pulling that report in real time as needed. Accurate revenue calculations depend on a solid at-risk management strategy, especially if you're using revenue as a percentage of completion, right? If you're using revenue equals billing, your at-risk is not factoring in. But if you are using that more popular option, that revenue as a percentage of completion, you have to develop a solid at-risk management strategy, or your numbers for revenue are not going to be strictly accurate. Lastly, that WIP tab has several additional valuable reports for you, right? Your finance team will definitely want to take a look at the available reports in the WIP tab, including that financial overview, that project's financial overview report, and kind of determine how those can be of use for you. They are all on-demand reports. You can go in there and pull them at any time. So with that, we're going to go ahead and open up the Q&A. I know I've been seeing some little notifications up here telling me there's some questions in the Q&A. So let me open that up and we'll take a look. So I'm seeing a couple of questions here from Annette. If the WIP is filtered by date or accounting period, will the export also be filtered? Yes, it will also be filtered. So any filter that you create, if we come back to that WIP, we'll just kind of show everyone what she's talking about here. If you're on the WIP tab, any filters you set will apply to all reports you're pulling on that tab. And then she also asked any plan to allow export of the project accounting report. Right now, I don't believe so, but that's certainly something that I'll put in as a suggestion for our product team. So for everybody, this is the filter she's talking about. If we're filtering by through date or accounting period, it is then going to hold that filter as you export any of these. So that's what we mean when we say memorialize the WIP. Okay, hopefully that takes care of those. The next question I'm seeing is from Will. Where do we go to set up accounting periods? Will these affect any ongoing processes in RedTeam? No, they should not affect any ongoing processes. It's just a matter of kind of filtering and grouping all of your financial transactions. So you can set those up down here in the configuration menu. It's a great question. You can start those at any time. You're going to come down to the My Company section here. And you're going to have an option for accounting periods. So the first thing you want to do is just enable those or turn those on. We come down here, accounting options. So activate accounting periods, that's what you want. And by the way, this is where you can set your default revenue recognition as well. So we can go ahead and set those up anytime we want and hit save. And then you can click here for accounting periods. You can also get through the transactions menu. You're going to see it's actually going to take me to the transactions menu. And it takes me to this page where I essentially just create a new accounting period, select the fiscal year, give it a name, Q1 2025 or January, select the end of period date and save. It will go ahead and create that accounting period for you. So you could create one at a time. You could create all of them for the upcoming year. I had one client tell me they really don't want more than 1 or 2 months available ahead of time. What you will find is if you've activated accounting periods and you haven't yet created an accounting period for February of 2025, it's not going to allow you to commit any invoices dated for February until you've created an accounting period that covers that date. So if my most current accounting period ends on January 31st, any invoices dated beyond that date, I'm going to get an error message when I hit commit that says you don't have an accounting period applicable. We don't know where to file this. So you'll want to make sure you set those up before you go ahead and start approving more invoices, because it will prevent you from committing those invoices. But no, other than committing invoices, it should not affect anything retroactively. You know, it's just going to go ahead and kind of allow you to sort and filter those transactions based on the invoice date. So great question there. Let me take a look at our others here. I have a question from Natalie. Why do I see closed projects in the WIP instead of just in progress? You should not be seeing closed projects, so I would go ahead and let me note your name, Natalie, because I'm going to reach out and make sure we look into that for you, because it really should just be in progress projects. But I know we've had a client that had a similar bug in the past. Okay, so I'll have our support team reach out to you, Natalie, to just make sure we take a look at that and verify if that's an issue for you. I've got a question here from Kelly. Where did we find the AR and AP reports? Good question. Those are in the vendors and the customers menu. So vendors, and we go to invoices, and the same with customers. We'd go vendors invoices or customers invoices, and then we'll hit the view icon. That would go ahead and give us access to that payables aging or receivables aging. Let's see, Will here, it says, would it make sense to set up accounting periods for the whole year? You certainly can. Like I said, I had one client who told me they were concerned about their employees putting in future invoices before they should be, and for that reason they were only comfortable having 1 to 2 accounting periods into the future created. But that's not a common thing that I've heard. Most often folks don't seem to have a problem with creating the whole year's worth ahead of time, just so that they're not running into that error going, oops, I forgot to set up March. So good question. Also, where can I go to find past webinars and the future webinar schedule? So let me go ahead and I will drop that link in the chat for you guys. I've got it bookmarked here. This is our webinars page, our events page, and I'll go ahead and drop that in the chat. You can go right there to see all of our upcoming webinars. This is where you can register. You can also look at our on-demand webinars. So here's where you could have registered for today's. And then as you go down, all of our older webinars are here on demand, and you can search through. You've got the ability to search through by type or product. So great question there. And then the last one I'm seeing here, any project with billing in the current year will be on the WIP. That's a good point. Thank you. It says anonymous, otherwise I'd call you out by name, but that's a fair point, right? So that may be, Natalie, why you're seeing some closed items. If you had some billing on those in the current year, it may still show on your WIP. So I'll certainly verify that answer with our subject matter experts and make sure that we take a look at your unique case, but that very well could be the answer. So good point there. I'm not seeing any other open questions, guys. I know we've still got plenty of people in here. So if you have any other questions, feel free to drop them in. I'll hang around for a couple of minutes here. Otherwise, we will be making this webinar available on that events page, and we'll make sure that we get follow-up sent out to you with the recording and the slides. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. Have a great rest of the day.